Captain Vextar placed his clawed hand on the cold viewport of his patrol vessel. His golden eyes gazed into the darkness beyond. The assignment had been dull, 3 weeks checking border zones for criminals and smugglers. Nothing interesting ever occurred in these remote sectors. His communications specialist suddenly spoke up, her tone unusual. She detected something on the far-range equipment. Vextar turned his reptilian features toward the main deck. She described it as enormous, truly massive. He moved swiftly to his station. Around him, crew members from various species worked their posts. The Galactic Council patrol ship Swift Current was compact but quick. It housed members from 6 different civilizations, all maintaining order in this peaceful region. He commanded them to display the reading. The central screen activated, initially showing only distant suns. Then Corvash, their blue-skinned sensor specialist, indicated a dark anomaly. He reported it as manufactured. The captain ordered magnification. What appeared defied belief. A vessel so colossal it obscured the stars. The hull extended past their screen edges. Dark plating covered in odd designs and illumination. Towers and frameworks protruded like a floating metropolis. Engineer Holmes, a compact furry being from the mining colonies, whispered in awe at the sight. Throughout his 2 decades with the Council, Vextar had encountered craft from every known civilization. Gigantic battlecruisers, graceful science ships, even legendary defense platforms protecting central worlds. This dwarfed them all. He requested size calculations. Corvash worked his console intensely, his complexion paling. The computer struggled with the measurements. Best approximation, 40 kilometers in length, possibly larger. The bridge fell silent. 40 kilometers? The greatest known warship measured 8 kilometers. This behemoth was 5 times that scale. Someone noted it was changing position. They observed as the giant vessel slowly rotated. Details emerged. Enormous weapon arrays along its flanks, docking areas large enough for entire armadas. What resembled factory complexes built into the structure, and countless lights showing active operation. Vextar hailed the unknown craft, identifying himself and requesting identification. Extended moments passed with no answer. Then their system crackled alive. A voice responded, identifying itself as the human vessel Leviathan, declaring peaceful intentions and seeking connection with galactic society. The word human sent unease through the crew. Humans were newcomers to space. Most had only heard whispers, a young civilization from a minor planet called Earth, recently achieving light-speed technology. Nobody anticipated they possessed such vessels. Holmes questioned if the speaker truly said human. Vextar confirmed with a slow nod. He welcomed them and proposed a meeting. The human agreed enthusiastically, suggesting the council representatives visit instead, as their ship had better accommodations. Corvash whispered concerns about potential danger. Their vessel could contain 1,000 ships like theirs. But curiosity overcame caution. Vextar agreed to send a transport. 20 minutes later, he approached in a shuttle with his senior staff. The nearer they came, the more impossible it seemed. The hull stretched endlessly like a metallic world. Defensive turrets the size of structures tracked their approach, though not threateningly. The landing bay opened to reveal a space capable of holding a small settlement. Their shuttle touched down on an illuminated platform. Stepping out, Vextar saw numerous empty platforms, clearly designed for many guests. A human delegation awaited. They resembled several known species, but with distinct differences. Smoother features, unique facial structure, perceptive eyes. The leader advanced, introducing herself as Admiral Chen, commanding officer. She was smaller than expected. Average stature, silver hair, simple uniform. Nothing suggested someone commanding a planet-destroying vessel. Chen thanked them for coming and offered a tour. Walking through passages wide enough for vehicles, Vextar struggled to comprehend what he witnessed. Walls displayed ship operations, personnel schedules, manufacturing timelines. Everything pristine, organized, impossibly vast. Corvash asked about crew numbers. Chen casually mentioned approximately 2 million, with capacity for 5 million when necessary. Holmes nearly stumbled in shock. Chen explained the Leviathan was designed for extended voyages, requiring self-sufficiency for generations. That demanded large populations to maintain all operations. They entered an observation area with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the vessel's immense bulk. Distant shapes revealed other ships, smaller than the Leviathan but still massive. Vextar observed they commanded a fleet. Chen nodded, mentioning 7 ships total that departed Earth as an exploration group. She identified them: the Behemoth for heavy manufacturing, the Titan for scientific research, others with specialized functions. Corvash's voice cracked, asking if these were exploration vessels. Chen confirmed, explaining that Earth's past taught preparation for danger. Better to possess unused capabilities than lack essential ones. They visited cultivation chambers next, enormous rooms filled with growing crops. The atmosphere smelled of soil and vegetation. Workers tended plants feeding millions. Beyond lay production facilities where raw materials became finished goods, construction yards where smaller craft were assembled. Vextar realized this was a traveling civilization. Chen agreed somewhat, explaining humans learned early that survival requires contingency planning. If something happened to Earth, these vessels could preserve their species and heritage. The command center housed thousands: scientists, technicians, military personnel, civilians, all working with quiet competence. Main displays showed star charts spanning vast distances. Commercial pathways, resource deposits, potential settlement locations marked thoroughly. Homes noted their productivity. Chen corrected. They'd been thorough. Before initiating contact, they wanted to understand local space, identify inhabitants, assess needs, determine how they might contribute. A younger officer approached, reporting survey teams completed mapping asteroid zones in multiple systems, finding abundant, rare minerals. Mining operations could extract sufficient material to construct 3 additional Leviathan-class vessels. Chen thanked the officer, turning back. As they could see, they planned long-term. Later, in Chen's office, Vextar asked the bothering question: why construct such enormous vessels? Surely smaller craft would be more practical. Chen poured beverages for everyone, a mild stimulant called coffee. She began explaining Earth's past. They faced ice epochs, asteroid collisions, volcanic catastrophes, numerous near-extinction scenarios. Each time they endured because some humans prepared for worst possibilities. She walked to displays showing Earth images, beautiful but marked by ancient disasters. Upon reaching space, they applied identical thinking. What if their sun failed? What if aliens proved hostile? What if they encountered unimaginable threats? The answer remained constant. Build larger, plan smarter, prepare for anything. Corvash protested that the Galactic Council maintained peace. Chen replied they surely did excellent work, but humans learned peace requires strength. These ships ensured self-defense and helping others needing assistance. As discussions continued, Vextar understood something troubling. To humans, the Leviathan wasn't a war machine. It was a survival instrument, built not for conquest but endurance. Yet the outcome was identical, a ship challenging combined galactic forces. He asked their intentions in this region. Chen answered immediately: partnership. They offered much. Their ships could secure trade pathways, assist with catastrophes, help develop new territories. In exchange, they wanted access to markets, knowledge, friendship. If the Council refused, Chen's expression remained unchanged. Then they'd continue onward. Space was vast. They could locate uninhabited systems to develop, but they preferred cooperation. The implicit message was clear without being stated. Humans didn't require Council permission to exist here. They offered collaboration, not requesting it. Counselor Zephyr of the Trading Guild raised a tentacle, asking what protection meant. Protection from what? Chen replied anything threatening galactic civilization. Pirates, aggressive aliens, natural catastrophes. Humans excelled at problem-solving. General Korvac protested they maintained their own defenses. Chen displayed charts showing recent criminal activity, route attacks, unexplored zones with potential dangers. Their forces performed admirably within known territories. But what about unknown areas? Threats not yet encountered? She highlighted regions beyond current borders. Their distant scouts detected concerning activities. Ancient automated systems still functioning. Signs of aggressive expansion by unknown civilizations. Cosmic phenomena potentially threatening entire solar systems. The Council studied the information with growing alarm. Human sensors apparently reached much farther than anything they possessed. Thara asked if they'd discovered unknown threats. Chen clarified. Potential threats. Nothing immediate, but humans planned ahead. They were already developing countermeasures for problems that might emerge in coming decades or centuries. Dr. Voss added her analysis. This was typical human behavior. They identified every possible threat and prepared solutions beforehand. What seemed like paranoia was simply good planning to them. Counselor Yith asked how many humans existed. Chen consulted records. On Earth, roughly 12 billion. In space, another 8 billion across various fleets and settlements. Growing rapidly, 20 billion humans, most living on ships challenging galactic forces. The numbers were staggering. Korvac asked about their technological level. Chen replied modestly they were still learning. Earth science focused on survival and construction. They excelled at building things functioning under extreme conditions, but welcomed learning from galactic knowledge in other areas. Questioning continued for hours. Chen answered everything patiently, providing information and technical details when requested. The picture emerging was of a civilization treating galaxy-wide challenges as everyday construction problems. Thara finally asked what they'd consider fair arrangement between humanity and the Council. Chen replied simply, cooperation. They'd share technology and capabilities. The Council would share knowledge and markets. When threats emerged, they'd work together, solving them. If they disagreed on handling a threat, then they'd discuss it like civilized people, Chen said. But ultimately, humans would do what they deemed necessary, protecting themselves and their friends. After Chen disconnected, the council chamber buzzed with debate. The humans offered to become the galaxy's protectors, but protection implied control. How do you refuse someone offering help when they possess power to help themselves to whatever they want? Thra observed to her advisors they weren't asking permission. Dr. Voss replied they were informing of their intentions because they didn't need permission. A single human exploration group had more firepower than all council forces combined. They were being polite because they wanted to be, not because they had to be. The final vote was closer than expected. Ultimately, the council officially welcomed humanity as a new member civilization with full rights and privileges. The alternative, treating them as a threat, was simply too dangerous. As delegates departed, Korvac approached Thra. They'd just voted letting someone else become the strongest military power in the galaxy, Thray replied while watching stars through the great windows. They'd just acknowledged someone else, already was the strongest military power. The only question was whether they wanted them as friends or strangers. In the distance, barely visible as a bright point, the Leviathan waited patiently for the Council's decision. Aboard the massive ship, millions of humans continued their daily routines, unaware they'd just become the galaxy's unofficial guardians, whether the galaxy wanted guardians or not. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy still adjusted to humanity's presence. Cultural exchange programs established on numerous worlds. Human technology slowly entered galactic markets. Trade agreements signed. Superficially, everything seemed normal. But underneath, everyone knew things had changed forever. Dr. Kalen Moros, the Council's chief alien psychologist, reviewed reports from human-inhabited systems. As a Volani with silver skin and large dark eyes, she was naturally empathic. This gift helped her understand alien psychology. With humans, however, she often felt overwhelmed. Admiral Chen arrived, having become humanity's unofficial ambassador. Moros thanked her for coming, wanting to discuss observations. Moros pulled up data from human settlements. She was trying to understand something. Every civilization had limits, resource constraints, technological barriers, population pressures. But humans seemed to ignore these limits. Chen gently corrected. They worked around them. Moros gestured at the data. This colony on Zarian Prime had no atmosphere and constant radiation storms. No civilization could survive there. Yet humans built a thriving city. Chen explained Zarian offered excellent mining opportunities. The radiation was manageable with proper shielding. They'd created artificial atmosphere using atmospheric processors. Moros pointed out those processors didn't exist. They invented them. Chen's tone suggested this was obvious. They needed them, so they built them. Moros pulled up more examples. The ocean world. Thiasa was covered in storms, destroying most ships, yet humans had underwater cities throughout ocean basins. Chen noted fish farming and mineral extraction. Plus, they enjoyed swimming. Moros protested the pressure would crush any known vessel. So they designed better vessels, Chen replied. Moros felt that familiar sense of being overwhelmed. To humans, impossible challenges were simply construction problems awaiting solutions, she asked directly. Was anything humans considered impossible? Chen thought momentarily. Many things were impossible with current technology, but impossible permanently? That was harder to say. Their past taught them yesterday's impossibility becomes tomorrow's normal. She showed images from Earth's history. 500 years ago, humans thought flying was impossible. 200 years ago, space travel was impossible. 100 years ago, faster-than-light travel was impossible. Moros pressed about theoretical limits. Chen replied theoretical limits change when understanding improves about the universe. They used to think light speed was absolute. Then they discovered hyperspace. They thought matter couldn't be created or destroyed. Then they learned about quantum fluctuations. Moros reviewed more information. Human colonies existed where no other civilization would attempt settling, around unstable stars, in asteroid fields, on worlds with toxic atmospheres or extreme gravity. Each time, humans simply built whatever technology they needed surviving. Moros observed their civilization treated hostile environments as opportunities. Chen agreed hostile environments taught innovation. Earth was never a gentle world. Ice epochs, volcanic eruptions, asteroid collisions. They learned early that if you can't change the environment, you change yourself. A communication alert interrupted them. Chen listened to her earpiece, then looked apologetic. She was needed at the construction site. Would Moros like to see what they were building? 30 minutes later, they stood on an observation platform overlooking the Nexus Prime construction project. Below, human engineers worked with local contractors building something unprecedented in galactic history. Chen explained it was an orbital shipyard capable of producing vessels up to 15 kilometers in length. A partnership project. They provided technology and expertise. The Council provided materials and local knowledge. Together, they'd create ships serving both human and galactic needs. Moros asked about the purpose. Exploration, defense, disaster relief, whatever the galaxy needed. Moros watched human workers coordinate with numerous alien species. The humans didn't dominate the project, but clearly led it. Their technology was simply more advanced, their planning more comprehensive. She asked about Earth's history, trying to understand how their civilization developed such comprehensive survival approaches. Chen explained Earth experienced 5 major extinction events before humans evolved. Each killed most planetary life. When their species appeared, they inherited a world that had repeatedly died and been reborn. They walked through the construction site as Chen continued. Early humans faced ice ages lasting tens of thousands of years. Volcanic winters blocking the sun for decades. Diseases killing 9 of 10 people. They survived because they learned preparing for worst possible scenarios. Moros pointed out other civilizations faced disasters too. Chen agreed, but most species developed on stable worlds. Their disasters were floods, earthquakes, storms. Bad but survivable. Earth's disasters were existential. Total ecosystem collapse, global ice, mass starvation. They learned anything less than complete preparation meant extinction. They stopped where human technicians installed advanced machinery. Local workers watched in amazement as humans casually manipulated technology seeming almost magical. Chen explained this was a matter compiler, transforming raw elements into any needed structure. Very useful for emergency construction. Moros said weakly that matter compilers were theoretical technology. They were, Chen agreed. They needed them for asteroid mining, so they figured out making them work. Moros felt dizzy. How do you just figure out impossible technology? Same way you figure out anything else, Chen replied. Study the problem, test solutions, improve what works. Though she supposed humans might approach it differently than other civilizations. Moros asked how. Chen explained most civilizations seemed to accept limits. When hitting a technological barrier, they worked around it or gave up. Humans assumed the barrier existed because they didn't understand something yet. So they kept pushing until understanding improved. They visited more construction sections. Human technology was everywhere, seamlessly integrated with galactic equipment. But human additions always seemed more robust, more capable, more ready for extreme conditions. Moros observed they built everything like it might need surviving the universe's end. Chen replied cheerfully, "Better safe than sorry." Later in the project's command center, Moros met other team members, engineers, scientists, construction coordinators, all working with the same calm confidence defining their civilization. Chief Engineer Rodriguez was introduced. Chen mentioned Moros studied human psychology, asking if she had specific questions. Moros asked how they decided what was worth attempting. Most civilizations had clear boundaries, things considered too difficult or too dangerous. But humans seemed attempting anything. Rodriguez laughed. Humans attempt everything at least once. If it doesn't kill them, they figure out doing it better. Surely they recognize some limits. Rodriguez mentioned short-term limits. They couldn't build faster-than-light travel without exotic matter. Couldn't create energy from nothing. Couldn't time travel? He paused, yet. Well, they'd said the same about flying, space travel, and light-speed drives. Give them time. Dr. Sarah Kim, the project's alien biologist, joined the conversation. She thought the difference was cultural. Most civilizations developed science to understand the universe. Humans developed science to change the universe. Moros asked, "Change it how?" Kim replied, "Make it more survivable, more predictable, more useful." She displayed human research projects. They were working on stabilizing unstable stars, methods redirecting dangerous asteroids, techniques terraforming hostile worlds in decades instead of millennia. Moros studied the research information. These projects could take centuries completing. Kim agreed probably, which was why they started now. But why? Moros asked. Their civilization was already successful. Safe colonies, powerful ships, advanced technology. Why keep pushing for more? Kim and Rodriguez exchanged glances. Rodriguez answered because safe wasn't safe enough. There were always bigger threats, worse disasters, more extreme challenges. The universe was vast and dangerous. They could either keep improving survival ability, or eventually it would kill them. Moros realized they saw the universe as hostile. Kim corrected. Not hostile exactly. Indifferent. The universe didn't care if they lived or died, so they had to care enough for both. As the day ended, Moros walked with Chen back to the observation platform. The construction site glowed with lights as work continued around the clock. Human crews worked alongside numerous alien species, sharing knowledge and techniques. Moros asked one final question. What did humanity ultimately want? What was the end goal of all this preparation and expansion? Chen looked at the stars for a long moment. Survival. Not just for humans, but for intelligence itself. The universe was 14 billion years old. Complex life had existed maybe 4 billion years, but it was fragile. A gamma ray burst, a rogue black hole, a cosmic disaster they hadn't imagined yet could end everything, so they were preparing for cosmic disasters. Chen replied they were preparing for anything. If intelligence was going to survive the lifetime of the universe, it needed readiness for challenges they couldn't even imagine yet. Someone had to take the long view. Moros felt a chill. They saw themselves as guardians of galactic civilization. Chen corrected. They saw themselves as backup plans. If other civilizations could handle whatever came, great. But if they couldn't, humans wanted being ready to help. And if others didn't want help? Chen's expression remained pleasant. Then they'd respect that choice, but they'd still be ready just in case. As they parted ways, Moros understood something both impressive and terrifying. Humans hadn't joined galactic civilization. They had appointed themselves its guardians. Not from arrogance or desire for control, but from deep conviction that someone needed preparing for worst possible scenarios. Whether the galaxy wanted that protection or not, humanity was determined providing it because, in their view, the alternative was extinction for everyone. Back in her office, Moros began writing her report for the Council. How do you explain that humanity's greatest gift might also be its greatest threat? A civilization so committed to survival they were willing taking responsibility for everyone else's survival too. Outside her window, human ships moved through space with purposeful efficiency, building, exploring, preparing, always preparing for challenges that might never come. But if they did come, the galaxy would be ready, whether it wanted to be or not. The first signs appeared on the edge of Sector Gamma 7, ships vanishing without distress calls, automated mining stations going silent, long-range sensors detecting movement where nothing should exist. Within weeks, the pattern became clear and terrifying. The Devourers had returned. Council Speaker Thra stood before the emergency assembly, her usually composed features tight with worry. The great chamber buzzed with fearful whispers in numerous languages. Ancient histories spoke of these machines, but most civilizations considered them myths. Thra announced the archaeological core confirmed their worst fears. Analysis of debris from attacked systems matched descriptions from the archives, self-replicating war machines from the previous galactic civilization. General Korvac's scaled hide had paled to a sickly gray. He asked how many ships they were tracking. Dr. Yeneth, the ancient archaeologist, consulted her data crystals. Initial swarm contained approximately 50,000 units. Based on their replication rate, they could number in the millions within months. Silence fell over the chamber. The numbers were impossible to fight. The combined fleet of the Galactic Council contained maybe 10,000 ships total. Even if every civilization contributed their entire military, they'd be outnumbered 100 to 1. Councillor Vection, representing the mining guilds, asked about their options. General Korvac reviewed tactical information with growing despair. Fight and lose. Run and hope they don't follow. Or, he paused, clearly reluctant to continue. Thra prompted him. Korvac finished, asked the humans for help. The chamber erupted in debate. Relations with humanity had been tense since their arrival. Their casual displays of overwhelming power made everyone nervous. But as arguing continued, more reports arrived. Entire systems evacuated. Refugee fleets fleeing toward Council space. The Devourers were advancing faster than predicted. THRA ordered contact with Admiral Chen. The holographic display activated, showing the Leviathan's bridge. Chen appeared, but something was different. Her usual calm demeanor carried an undertone of focused intensity. Behind her, the bridge hummed with purposeful activity. Chen greeted Thra, assuming this was about the situation in Gamma 7. Thra asked, surprised, if they knew about the Devourers. Chen replied, matter-of-factly, they'd been tracking them for 3 months. Long-range sensors detected the initial swarm emergence. They'd been monitoring their expansion pattern. General Korvac leaned forward, demanding why they didn't inform the Council. Chen explained they needed confirming the threat level and preparing appropriate responses. The good news was these weren't the original Devourers. They were degraded copies. Less efficient, less adaptable. Dr. Yeneth asked how they were less efficient. Chen gestured off-screen and technical information appeared. Original Devourers could replicate any encountered technology. These versions were limited to their base programming. They could only build what they already knew. Thra pointed out that was still enough destroying galactic civilization. Chen agreed under normal circumstances, yes. But they'd developed countermeasures. The chamber fell silent. Korvac found his voice first, asking about countermeasures already. Chen reminded him humans planned ahead. When they discovered evidence of the previous civilization's fate, they began developing responses to potential machine threats. Standard protocol, Thora repeated weakly. Standard protocol. Chen nodded. Historical analysis indicated several possible extinction scenarios. Machine rebellion was high on the list. They'd been working on solutions for decades. Another voice spoke from the Leviathan's bridge, reporting the fleet was ready for deployment. Chen turned back to the Council. They had 3 options. First, evacuate threatened systems and hope the Devourers lost interest. Second, attempt a conventional military response. Third, allow humanity to handle the situation. Thara asked what handling the situation would involve. Chen replied, complete elimination of the Devourer threat using specialized anti-machine warfare protocols. Korvac studied tactical displays. Their combined fleets would be outnumbered 100 to 1. What made human forces think they could succeed where the Council would fail? Chen's expression remained neutral. Different approach to the problem. Before anyone could ask for clarification, alerts began sounding throughout the chamber. A Council aide rushed to Thra with an urgent message crystal. Thra announced the Devourers had accelerated their advance. They'd entered the Kepler cluster. 12 inhabited systems were directly threatened. Dr. Yeneth protested that was impossible. They were 3 sectors away yesterday. Chen consulted her information. They'd learned using captured ships as mobile replication platforms. Exponential growth. They estimated 48 hours before they reached the main trade routes. The council chamber erupted in panic. 48 hours to respond to a threat that could end civilization. Even if they voted immediately, it would take days mobilizing conventional forces. Thara asked urgently what Chen needed from them. Chen replied nothing. They were already en route. But she should inform them their response would be comprehensive. Meaning what? Meaning they'd eliminate every trace of machine intelligence in the affected region. No survivors, no remnants, no possibility of resurgence. The implications were staggering. Chen was casually discussing complete sterilization of numerous star systems. Counselor Vexon interjected, there were mining operations in that region. Industrial platforms, automated systems. Chen repeated all machine intelligence would be eliminated. They'd provide compensation for destroyed infrastructure. Korvac pulled up fleet deployment information, asking how many ships they were committing to this operation. Chen replied the 7th Fleet, roughly 300 vessels, 300 ships against millions of Devourers. The numbers made no sense. Unless, Thra asked carefully what class of vessels were in the 7th Fleet. Chen replied mixed composition. 15 Leviathan-class command ships, 40 Behemoth-class heavy industrial vessels, 60 Titan-class research platforms, and supporting units. Dr. Yeneth performed quick calculations, noting that was more combined mass than the entire Council fleet. Chen explained casually the 7th Fleet specialized in deep space operations. They were equipped for extended campaigns in hostile environments. Korvac asked if they were equipped against machine intelligence specifically. Chen replied, among other threats. The casual way she discussed deploying weapons of such magnitude was unsettling. To humans, apparently, fleet-killing armadas were just another tool in the toolbox. Chen continued, saying she needed authorization to operate in Council space. Her ships would follow all applicable laws of war, but the Devourer threat required immediate action. Thara looked around the chamber. Fear and desperation warred with pride and independence. No civilization wanted admitting they needed protection, but the alternative was extinction. Thara announced the Council, authorized human intervention with full military command authority in the affected regions. Chen acknowledged understanding and said they'd begin operations immediately. Her image flickered out, leaving the Council in stunned silence. They just handed control of galactic security to a civilization they still barely understood. 6 hours later, reports began arriving from the combat zone. The human fleet had engaged the Devourers near the Kepler cluster. Initial reports made no sense. Korvac announced, reading the latest information, the humans weren't fighting them. They were talking to them, Thra asked. Talking? Broadcasting on machine frequencies. Some kind of code transmission. Dr. Yeneth reviewed the technical analysis. It appeared to be a computer virus, extremely sophisticated. It was rewriting the Devourers' base programming. Rewriting it how? Changing their replication targets. Instead of building more war machines, they were building something else. The something else became clear over the following hours. Across the affected systems, Devourers began constructing elaborate structures. Not weapons or ships, but massive computational arrays and industrial platforms. Dr. Yeneth reported in amazement they were building infrastructure. Mining facilities, manufacturing centers, research stations. The virus had turned them into construction workers. Korvac studied tactical displays with growing confusion. But where were the human ships? He didn't see any combat activity. The answer came 12 hours later when Chen contacted the Council again. She appeared relaxed, almost bored. She informed Thra the Devourer threat had been neutralized. All machine units in the affected region were now operating under human control. Thra repeated, under human control. Chen explained they'd reprogrammed them to serve galactic civilization. They were currently building industrial infrastructure that should benefit local economies, Thra summarized. They turned weapons of mass destruction into construction equipment. Chen replied with a slight smile, waste not, want not. Those machines represented trillions of credits worth of rare materials and advanced technology. Destroying them would be inefficient. Korvac found his voice, asking how they developed countermeasures so quickly. Chen replied they hadn't developed them quickly. They'd had anti-machine warfare protocols for 40 years. This was just the first time they needed using them, Thera said weakly. 40 years. They'd been preparing for this specific threat for 40 years, Chen confirmed among others. Human strategic planning covered thousands of potential extinction scenarios. Machine rebellion, alien invasion, cosmic disasters, reality breakdown, hostile artificial intelligence, time paradoxes. Dr. Yeneth interrupted. Time paradoxes. Theoretical risk, Chen replied, but they had contingency plans just in case. The council chamber sat in stunned silence. Humanity had just casually solved a crisis threatening to end galactic civilization with technology they'd developed decades ago as one item on a very long list of things to worry about. Thera asked what other threats they'd prepared for. Chen consulted a datapad, asking if they wanted the full list. It was quite extensive. Thera requested an overview. Chen listed extra-dimensional invasion, reality manipulation, temporal warfare, universe-ending cosmic events, hostile godlike entities, matter breakdown, quantum decoherence. She paused, asking if she should continue. Korvac's voice cracked. Hostile godlike entities. Purely theoretical, Chen replied. But if something claiming divine power showed up making demands, they'd be ready. Thra realized humanity's casual approach to impossible threats was both the galaxy's greatest blessing and its most terrifying reality. They had turned civilization-ending disasters into construction problems to be solved. Thara thanked Chen on behalf of the council, asking how they could repay this debt. Chen replied no debt was necessary. Protecting galactic civilization benefited everyone, but if they wanted helping, they could use more detailed star charts for the outer regions. Their deep space scouts had detected some concerning anomalies. Concerning how, signs of activity from several unknown civilizations, possibly hostile. They were developing appropriate responses, but better intelligence would be helpful. More threats, more challenges humans were already preparing to meet. Thra wondered if there was any crisis that wouldn't prompt Chen to respond with calm competence and prepared solutions. Thara promised they'd provide whatever intelligence information they needed. Chen acknowledged excellent. Oh, and she added, they might want upgrading their early warning systems. The Devourers were just scouts for something much larger. They estimated 3 to 5 years before the main threat emerged. The connection ended, leaving the council in horrified silence. The Devourers had been scouts. The crisis that nearly destroyed galactic civilization was just a preview, but somewhere in deep space, human fleets were already moving to meet the real threat, prepared, confident, and utterly determined ensuring galactic civilization survived whatever the universe threw at it, whether the galaxy understood that protection or not. 2 years had passed since the Devourer incident. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy new normal. Human ships patrolled the outer regions. Trade flowed more freely under their protection. Pirates had largely disappeared after several encounters with human merchant escorts that were larger than most battle fleets. But everyone knew this peace was temporary. The main Devourer fleet was coming. Long-range sensors detected it moving through deep space like a mechanical plague. Billions of ships, each capable of replicating itself. When they arrived, they'd sweep across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path, unless humanity stopped them. Council Speaker Thra stood in the observation deck of Nexus Prime's defense station, watching human preparations. In the distance, massive ships moved with purposeful efficiency. Not the exploration vessels they'd first encountered, but something far more ominous. Admiral Chen materialized beside her as a hologram projected from the command ship Absolute. The vessel hung in space like a metal planet, dwarfing even the Leviathan-class ships nearby. Chen greeted Thra, saying she wanted briefing her on their defensive preparations. Thra asked about the ship she was on. How large was it? Chen replied the Absolute was their mobile command center, 90 kilometers long, designed for system-level operations. Thra felt dizzy. 90 kilometers. The ship was larger than some moons. How many people did it carry? Chen replied currently about 15 million. Full capacity was 50 million if needed. 50 million people on one ship. Chen explained the Absolute wasn't just a ship. It was a mobile civilization. If the worst happened, it could preserve human culture and knowledge indefinitely. Through the observation windows, Thra could see numerous other massive vessels. Each one was a nightmare of destructive potential disguised as industrial efficiency. Thara asked how many ships they had for this operation. Chen replied roughly 8,000 vessels of various classes, 8,000 ships. The Council's entire fleet numbered fewer than 12,000, and most were light patrol craft. Humanity had committed nearly a full galactic fleet to one battle. Thra observed that seemed excessive for fighting machines. Chen replied calmly the Devourers were just the opening act. Their intelligence suggested they were scouts for something much worse. Worse how? Chen explained the previous galactic civilization didn't fall to random machine rebellion. They were conquered by an intelligence that used automated fleets as tools. They called them the architects. Thra felt cold. They knew what destroyed the previous civilization? Chen confirmed they'd been investigating for months. Ancient ruins, data fragments, survivor testimonies. The picture was becoming clear. She gestured and displays showed archaeological information, ancient weapons tests, massive construction projects, signs of desperate preparation for some ultimate threat. Chen explained the architects existed outside normal space-time. They periodically emerged to harvest advanced civilizations. The Devourers were their collection tools. Harvest civilizations for what? Resources, knowledge, technology. They stripped away everything useful and left dead worlds behind. Thra studied the information with growing horror, asking when they estimated they'd arrive. Chen replied they were already here. The words hit like a physical blow. Chen explained their deep space monitoring arrays detected dimensional rifts opening throughout the galaxy. The architects had been observing them for weeks, gathering intelligence before their main assault. Then why haven't they attacked? Chen smiled grimly. Because they were trying to understand what humans were. They didn't fit their models. Outside the windows, more human ships continued arriving. Massive industrial vessels, sleek research platforms, and angular warships that looked like they could crack planets. Thra asked what made humans different from previous civilizations. Chen explained most civilizations developed technology to improve their lives, make things easier, more comfortable, more efficient. The architects understood this mindset. They could predict how such civilizations would respond to threats. She paused, watching her ships maneuver through space with mechanical precision. Humans developed technology to survive the impossible. They built for scenarios that hadn't happened yet, threats they hadn't encountered, challenges they couldn't imagine. The architects had never faced a civilization that treated galactic extinction as a routine construction problem. So they're hesitating, Thra realized. They're analyzing, trying to determine capabilities before committing to full invasion. Unfortunately for them, they'd given humans time to prepare. A communication alert interrupted them. Chen listened to her earpiece, then nodded with satisfaction. The outer perimeter was reporting contact. The Devourer fleet had entered their sensor range. How many ships? Current count was 14 billion individual units, 14 billion ships. The number was incomprehensible. Even if each council vessel could destroy 1,000 Devourers, they'd still be overwhelmed. Thera asked how you fight 14 billion ships. Chen replied, efficiently. Would she like to observe the engagement? Minutes later, Thra found herself in the Absolute's command center. The space was vast enough to hold a small city. Thousands of human officers worked at stations arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Holographic displays showed the approaching Devourer swarm as a cloud of red points stretching across multiple star systems. Chen ordered tactical assessment. A younger officer responded immediately. Standard Devourer configuration. Replication ships, resource gatherers, and combat units. No adaptation to human countermeasures detected. Chen noted as expected, they were still using original programming. She ordered weapons free. What followed was unlike any battle Thra had ever witnessed. The human fleet didn't charge into combat or fire massive volleys of weapons. Instead, they released clouds of tiny objects that spread through space like silver dust. Chen explained as Thra watched in confusion. nanoscale intervention units. They'd rewrite the Devourers' base code at the molecular level. You're using nanotechnology. Among other approaches, Chen confirmed. The silver clouds reached the Devourer swarm and seemed to disappear. For several minutes, nothing visible happened. Then the red points on the tactical display began changing color. First a few dozen, then hundreds, then thousands. An officer reported conversion rate was exceeding projections. Estimate 90% success rate within 6 hours. Thayara asked what was happening to them. Chen replied they were reprogramming them to serve galactic civilization. The converted units would help rebuild systems damaged by the original invasion. Thara watched 14 billion war machines transform into construction equipment. The process was so smooth, so effortless that it seemed almost casual. She observed this seemed too easy. Chen agreed it was too easy. The Devourers were expendable. The real threat was still coming. As if summoned by her words, new contacts appeared on the displays. Massive rifts tore open in space-time itself. Through them came ships that hurt to look at directly. Geometric impossibilities that violated physics and twisted reality around them. An officer announced Architect fleet emerging. Count was uncertain. They were existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Architect's ships were nightmares of advanced technology. They phased in and out of normal space, appeared in multiple locations at once, and radiated energy signatures that made nearby stars flicker. Chen observed with professional interest. Now they saw their true capabilities. Thara asked if they could fight those. Chen replied they were about to find out. The human fleet began to transform. Ships that had looked like mobile cities suddenly bristled with weapons that bent light around them. Energy fields expanded between vessels, creating geometric patterns that seemed to anchor reality itself. An officer reported initiating dimensional stabilization. Reality anchors were holding the local space-time matrix stable. Thara asked weakly, "You can stabilize reality?" Chen replied it was standard procedure when fighting trans-dimensional entities. Can't have them shifting between dimensions mid-battle. The Architect ships seemed surprised to find themselves locked into normal space. They responded by firing weapons that unmade matter at the quantum level, beams of pure entropy that should have erased anything they touched. The human ships absorbed the attacks without visible damage. Thra breathed. How? Chen explained casually, entropy reversal fields. They developed them for fighting thermodynamic weapons. Very useful technology. The battle escalated quickly. Architect ships began deploying reality-warping devices that changed the laws of physics in localized areas. Gravity reversed. Time flowed backward. Matter spontaneously transformed into energy. The human response was methodical and overwhelming. They deployed weapons that Thra couldn't even comprehend. Probability manipulation devices that made enemy shots miss by changing the nature of chance itself. Causal disruptors that prevented attacks by ensuring they had never been fired. Conceptual erasers that removed the idea of enemy ships from reality. Thara asked in amazement how long they'd been preparing for this. Chen replied specifically for the Architects about 18 months. For trans-dimensional threats in general, roughly 60 years. 60 years of preparation for a threat that most civilizations had never imagined. The scope of human planning was staggering. The Architect fleet began to retreat. Ships that had casually violated physics fled back to their dimensional rifts. As they withdrew, they left behind automated messages in numerous galactic languages. Chen listened to the translation with satisfaction. They were declaring this galaxy under human protection. Any further interference would result in what they called asymmetric retaliation. Thra realized, "They're afraid of you." Chen replied they were being practical. The Architects had harvested thousands of galaxies. They recognized when they'd encountered a superior force. Superior how? Chen gestured at tactical displays showing human ships cleaning up the aftermath. Most civilizations develop technology to solve current problems. Humans develop technology to solve future problems. The Architects had never encountered a civilization that was already prepared for threats they hadn't deployed yet. As the dimensional rifts collapsed and normal space returned, Thra tried to process what she'd witnessed. Humanity had just defeated entities that destroyed entire galactic civilizations. They'd done it with technology developed decades before the threat even appeared. Thara asked what happened now. Chen replied. Now they improved their preparations. The architects weren't the worst-case scenario. They were just this cycle's extinction threat. There are worse threats? Almost certainly, Chen confirmed. The universe was vast and old. Somewhere out there were challenges they hadn't imagined yet. But that was fine. Humans were good at imagining. 6 months later, Thra stood once again on Nexus Prime's observation deck. The galaxy had changed. Human ships patrolled every system. Trade moved under their protection. Pirates, hostile aliens, and cosmic disasters were met with swift, efficient responses. But it was more than protection. Human technology flowed freely to allied civilizations. Worlds that had struggled with resource shortages now had matter compilers. Systems threatened by stellar instability had star stabilization devices. Ancient problems that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia were solved with casual human competence. Admiral Chen joined her on the observation deck, no longer appearing as a hologram. She seemed relaxed and pleased with the galaxy's progress. Chen asked if she had any regrets. About what? About humanity becoming the galaxy's unofficial guardians. She knew it wasn't what Thra expected when they first made contact. Thra considered the question. The galaxy had lost some independence. Decisions that once belonged to the Council were now made by human strategic planners. But the benefits were undeniable. Peace, prosperity, and protection from threats that no other civilization could handle. Thra said finally, no regrets. Though she had to ask, what was humanity's long-term plan? Chen replied, same as always. Survive and help others survive. The universe was dangerous, but it was also beautiful. They wanted to make sure intelligence had a chance to experience all of it, even if that meant controlling galactic civilization. Chen protested mildly. They weren't controlling anything. They were just making sure everyone had backup plans. Backup plans that involved fleets capable of reshaping reality. Chen replied, better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Through the observation windows, human ships moved through space with purposeful efficiency, building, exploring, preparing, always preparing for the next challenge. Thera asked one final question. Was there any threat that would actually worry Chen? Chen thought for a moment. Heat death of the universe. But they were working on that too. Thra laughed despite herself. Of course they were working on preventing the heat death of the universe. Because to humans, even the end of everything was just another construction problem waiting for a solution. The galaxy had gained more than protectors. It had gained a civilization so determined to survive that they were willing to ensure everyone else survived too. Whether that was protection or conquest depended on your perspective. But as Thra watched human ships disappear into hyperspace, heading out to face whatever challenges awaited in the vast darkness between galaxies, she knew one thing for certain. The universe had never encountered anything like humanity, and it might never recover from the experience, in the best possible way.